You probably have one in your closet right now. The classic button-up shirt. It's a total staple. But behind that simple look is a really complex and precise process. So today, we're going to unfold that hidden blueprint to see how a shirt is really made.
We see these things every single day, right? But have you ever stopped to really look at one? I mean, how does a totally flat piece of fabric get turned into a 3D piece of clothing that fits a human body? It's actually a fascinating puzzle, a mix of engineering and artistry.
So, to understand how a shirt gets built, we first need to break it down into its parts. And trust me, it's not just a front and a back. No, it's a whole collection of carefully designed pieces, and each one has its own specific name and its own job to do.
Yeah, it's so easy to just think front and back, but look at all these individual pieces. You've got the collar and the little stand it sits on, the sleeves, the cuffs, and the yoke. That's the piece across the shoulders that gives the whole thing its structure. Every single one of these has to be perfectly designed to fit together like a puzzle. And it all begins long before any fabric gets cut. It all starts as a drawing on paper.
And that brings us to maybe the most critical part of making any piece of clothing: the pattern. This thing is the master plan. It's the architectural drawing. It is the DNA of the shirt before a single stitch is ever made.
So what exactly is a pattern? Well, it's the precise 2D paper version of every single one of those pieces we just saw. These flat shapes are what get traced onto the fabric before it's cut. To put it simply, no pattern, no garment. It is the absolute foundation.
This is the perfect way to think about it. If the finished shirt is a building, the pattern is its blueprint. Every curve, every straight line, every single measurement is meticulously planned out on paper first. You have to do that to make sure the final structure stands up correctly.
Of course, people aren't all one size. So how does that work? Well, that's where this process called grading comes in. Pattern grading is basically taking that one master blueprint and systematically scaling it up or down to create a whole range of sizes. It's how you make sure the proportions and the fit stay the same from a small all the way to an extra large.
So what do you actually need to make one of these blueprints? Well, a pattern maker's desk is covered in all these specialized tools, and every single one is designed for precision and accuracy. It's all about turning an idea into a physical plan.
Everything starts with measuring and marking. You need tools that guarantee you're being precise, like the tailor's L-square for getting those perfect 90-degree angles and flexible measuring tapes for dealing with curves. Even something as simple as using different colored pencils, usually red and blue, is a huge deal for keeping track of changes and corrections.
Next up are the tools for shaping and cutting, and we're talking about way more than just scissors. You've got things like curve rules, these special rulers that help you draw those perfectly smooth armholes and necklines. Then there's the notcher, such a clever tool. It punches tiny marks into the pattern. Those notches act like a map, guiding the sewer on exactly how to line up the pieces correctly later on.
Okay, so you've got all these cool tools, but they're only as good as the rules you follow when you use them. See, creating a pattern isn't just tracing. It's a process called drafting. And drafting has some fundamental rules, some core principles that make sure the final piece of clothing actually fits a person.
These are basically the 4 commandments of drafting a pattern. You have to add room to move, you often work in halves to keep things symmetrical, you've got to account for seams, and you have to mark up every single piece clearly. If you don't, you're just creating a confusing puzzle for the sewing room.
But if there's one principle that changes absolutely everything, it's this one: ease allowance. Just think about it for a second. If a shirt was the exact same size as your body, it would basically be a straitjacket. You couldn't put it on and you definitely couldn't move. Ease is just that crucial extra space, the breathing room that's built in for comfort and movement.
This table makes the whole idea super clear. I mean, look at the difference. A shirt might have 3 to 5 inches of ease around the bust, but only half an inch at the waist. This isn't random, it's a calculated science. In fact, there are different kinds of ease. There's wearing ease, which is the bare minimum you need just to move. And then there's design ease, which is the extra room that creates a specific style. Think about a slim fit shirt versus a loose, boxy one. That's all about design ease.
For centuries, pattern making was a totally manual craft of paper, pencils, and rulers. But today, the industry has gone through this massive digital transformation. The entire process has moved from the drafting table right onto the computer screen.
And the contrast here is pretty striking. What once took hours of painstaking manual redrawing can now be done with a single click of a mouse using computer-aided design, or CAD.
This technology is incredibly fast, it's super precise, and it gives you the flexibility to make and test a million changes instantly.
This quote here really captures the power of these systems. Once the main pattern is designed, the software can automatically generate all the other little parts, like the linings on the inside or the facings that reinforce the collar. That saves a ridiculous amount of time and guarantees a perfect fit between every single component.
So the next time you put on a button-up shirt, maybe you'll see it a little differently. It's not just a piece of clothing, but it's the final result of a really detailed architectural plan. It kind of makes you wonder, now that you know the blueprint, what would you create?